Hi, I'm Tracy Swedlow, and this is Televisionation, and I'm also talking directly to the great Himesh Bhise from Synacor, CEO. How are you doing, Himesh?
Hey Tracy, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
It's great to see you in person. I miss seeing you walking around our conferences, and of course, the very natty dresser that you are all the time. You're a sharp-dressed man all the time.
Always good to begin a session with compliments, Tracy. I thank you and miss seeing you live and the hugs and the high fives. But
Great.
this is good. This is good.
This is good. So we're in the video business, or you're producing things in the real world. I'm reporting on it, but there's so much to discuss in the streaming universe. Synacor is deeply involved and has many clients around the world, customers, and we want to understand what is happening because you're getting that sort of international perspective, and to see how you guys are. Where are you? Are you up in Buffalo?
Yes, the company is headquartered in Buffalo.
I remember taking a train to the New York show for TVOT through Buffalo, and I think the snow was about 12 feet high outside my window.
Well, this is an awesome time to be in Buffalo. You know, it's springtime, summertime. It was a wonderful weekend.
All right, so tell me let's let everybody hear from you. What does Synacor do? And then we'll go into what's happening now.
Terrific. Let me start with Synacor. So we are a small cap cloud-based technology company. We provide email and collaboration software. We provide identity and access management solutions, and also user engagement and monetization services, working with thousands of businesses, government organizations, ISPs, and service providers around the world.
Well, I mean, that's a lot to be able to offer. It's sort of a wide spectrum of specialties, and so I'm definitely very curious. How do you keep those two businesses separate? I mean, those two, those sort of the streaming content business separate from the communications business, or how do they overlap in any way?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tracy. So our collaboration platform is branded Zimbra. And as you know, our identity and access management solution is branded Cloud ID. Through Cloud ID, we work with a number of the leading content providers, OTT providers, video distributors, primarily in the US. Zimbra as a platform has been around for many years. Email is a core enterprise and business offering, right? And it has a much broader global footprint. Now, ultimately, I do view these two coming together and playing off of each other. And here's a simple reason why. Most people, when they define their own digital identity, it begins with an email address, right? Typically, when you're logging into something, you're logging in with an email address and a password, something that our identity platform is used to leveraging. And we connect that identity to all of the services that you want to use, whether you subscribe to them, whether you have access to them individually or through your enterprise. So I do believe that ultimately, these two businesses will come together in a much tighter fashion. Today, they are addressing the needs of slightly different audiences with a lot of things happening in the back end to tightly integrate them.
As I mentioned earlier before the call, I definitely was curious because on that side of your business, on the communication side of your business, you're able to put Zoom apps and things and web conferencing or other types of activities where people are communicating through video. And I know that's not really available too much in the connected TV, OTT marketplace. Do you think that is something that you might pursue to give people the ability to communicate on a big screen or participate in web conferences on a big screen?
Um,
I know this is a
video is,
speculative question, but I'm kind of curious.
it's a great question. It's so let me actually refer to what is happening in the business market, and then we can maybe see how that might apply to the consumer market in the future. But a CIO in a business is looking to assemble the full spectrum of collaboration apps that drive productivity in their specific business or enterprise, and have that connect to this, again, wide spectrum of enterprise apps that they have elected to use. So our premise with Zimbra is to make it a highly extensible, extremely flexible platform. So if you are that CIO trying to construct that package for your business, it's easy to do it on Zimbra. So if you want to use Zimbra email, but you want to use Zoom for video like we're using right now, or Slack for messaging, and you want to connect it to Dropbox, we want all of that to happen quickly and as much as possible, a lot of that to be available out of the box. And it's similar to our value proposition with Cloud ID and identity for content providers and video providers. Again, we are making those video services highly extensible and available on hundreds of device platforms, and across hundreds of distributors. I mean, that's the fundamental complexity that we're simplifying. If you've got an OTT service, you want it available as widely as possible. You want your users to use it on as many devices as possible, and you want that that password to persist in an easy but business-friendly way, right? And so you kind of take those two themes, you put them together, and you kind of see how the premise of both platforms is very similar. Then the question is, what's the role of collaboration while watching entertainment? I think that's fundamentally your question. Many services today seem to be launching this share with friends option, right? I mean,
watch TV. It's been going on for a while, but it's absolutely picking up steam now.
In this environment, when
COVID environment,
not sit on the same sofa, right, with our friends. And in that kind of environment, I do see the need to integrate some kind of messaging application. Even when you're on Zoom with a number of people, you see a chat screen on the right-hand side, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be exciting to have on a big screen, some kind of entertainment, and then invite your friends on video. We've been talking about, sharing with your friends your favorite shows, but you need it in a big TV screen environment, right? You need some kind of solution. And it seems like you have so many of these, the expertise to potentially put all that together. So I guess I'm suggesting a little bit, might be of an interesting direction to go down.
I think we need more, Tracy. I'll totally take the bait here. I mean, if any of your listeners want to reach out about the idea Tracy just had, give me a call.
I definitely would subscribe to that. Okay, so let's talk about what is happening with the streaming offering that you have around the world. You're working with how many customers would you say? I know in videos I've seen thousands, hundreds. You've got all these incredible customers that you're working with. Tell me a little bit about your streaming business and the types of trends you're seeing right now, and anything that sort of stood out about our current times.
Got it. So overall, as a company, we work with thousands of customers, right, in various sectors. In the streaming space, with our identity and access management solution, we've been fortunate to work with many of the video distributors and many of the leading streaming service providers, and it's been fascinating. We've been in the business for a while, And clearly you've seen this, we've all seen this rapid growth of OTT services.
So I was just
But
bringing up your list of customers. Sorry, behind the scenes. That's why I was dashing around. Hold on. I'll bring it up while you're talking. Hold on. Can you see that?
yep,
Okay.
it's fascinating to me to see how COVID-19 has served as a bit of a tipping point and as a bit of an inflection point as it relates to streaming, right? I mean, we've all seen the numbers at this point. Nielsen's published some, over 100% growth in streaming minutes year over year at the end of March. Average customer now just under 3 video subscriptions, 100 different networks. And even if one believes that that tapers off as the economy reopens, it's a consumer behavior that's then hard to forget. I believe it just becomes part of a consumer's day-to-day life. There's a certain expectation that, of course, I'm going to view the best content or the content that I'm most interested in across as many of these services as possible, because it's part of my normal life to have these multiple subscriptions right now. But if you are now one of these 100 networks, your goal is, how do I keep those consumers after they run out of their trials, right, that they might be on right now during COVID? And
Happy.
how do I let my message, how do I let my service stand out amongst, the top 4 that still maintain probably 70+% of streaming minutes?
You're absolutely right. And I think it requires us, an operator to be able to communicate, to market, to proactively develop that community. I know for myself, I've got a spreadsheet full of these services to be able to keep track of them and to know how much I'm paying for them, and where they are. It's growing on a daily basis. I have to watch them all, right? I have to check out what's going on. But how are you helping your customers be proactive?
Yeah, and to your point, each one of them is working through a number of issues, right? They're trying to differentiate themselves with the brand. They're trying to differentiate themselves with the content they're aggregating. They're constructing the right kind of marketing programs, targeting the right audiences. We are a provider of enabling technology. And our principal goal is, how do we make this enabling technology as flexible and as scalable as possible so that it can support all these initiatives that our customer is executing, right? So top of mind, we've seen a number of launches recently. I mean, Quibi, we saw HBO Max yesterday, Peacock a few weeks ago, and more in the works, right? All trying to take advantage of this direct consumer movement. Mm-hmm. So principally, there's a speed to market goal, right? How quickly can you get your service out the door with a basic feature like username and password? Then there's the scalability of it, because you're going to get to a number of users, probably more than you might have expected. There's the device platforms, there's the access through distributor partnerships, the business needs in terms of concurrency, etc. So all of those features we try and make available out of the box and easy to implement.
Are you involved in the HBO Max project?
As you probably saw in our kind of list of customers we've worked with HBO, and we're working with many of the leaders today.
Okay. I know all of these companies are very secretive about who they have integrated into their platforms. So I think that they seem to have launched, all these services are launching and they're scaling, but I mean, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of discussing their content choices and content strategy. That's not what you're in charge of. And some of those choices are pretty, unsatisfactory in my opinion. But besides that, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing, because you do have an international perspective. Uh, are you seeing the services are still growing, or are they tapering off? Or are you finding that people are looking for different types of content, or are they having trouble with are certain types of companies having difficulty scaling? Well, that's sort of a big question. Like what's working for people and what's not?
Um, I think the market is still growing. I think there is still an opportunity to expand both viewers and viewership in these streaming platforms. And I think that opportunity exists in the US, and I believe that opportunity exists in other parts of the world as well. And along with that opportunity comes two things. One is an expectation of content you're interested in. Ultimately, that's why one might maintain the service. Otherwise, you're tempted to sign up, sign off, sign in, right? I mean, it's you don't get this committed user for a long time. And I think the second thing is a certain expectation of how this works. Like, I don't think people at this point have a high tolerance of trying to figure out the platform or try to figure out what the UX is, or have much tolerance for, okay, so what are the 3 different things I need to do to be able to log into the platform? I mean, I think we have lower tolerances on all of that as well.
And yet, and you bring up a great point, which is that there needs to be an ease of use and a general understanding about how these interfaces work, the user experience, and it needs to be consistent to some extent. But at the same time, how do these companies differentiate themselves? Is it just the content? The user experience isn't changing that much still. In some ways, it's very static. You know, in some ways, that navigating the images of the cover art and finding stuff. So it's really about the strength of the AI, use of AI by the operator, or in recommendations technology, the promotion capabilities on the platform, and how proactive they are to drive the marketing of that content. Do you have any thoughts about what Synacor can do to give them some sort of extra tools or some, superpowers, like, allow them to differentiate themselves in some way? And then how fast can these things be rolled out? Are you doing, aren't you doing watch TV now? I think I saw that somewhere listed. I wasn't sure. I mean, is there any sort of are there any bells and whistles that you might be rolling out that you can hint to that will help them differentiate themselves?
Yeah.
Drive more content.
So might be a little bit cliched, but I think it's a helpful framework to go back to the customer journey model, right? So you kind of begin with awareness and interest and trial and adoption, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what every service is aspiring for as they launch. Some have advantages on the awareness side. HBO has an inbuilt base of
I'm sure an infinite database and brand visibility. I mean, yes.
Brand visibility, right?
Right.
Quibi had to build that from scratch to some extent. I mean, how many people?
Yes.
Right. So you kind of move from that to what is actually generating interest, which could be certain categories of content, certain shows, whether it's Office, whether it's Friends, whether it's a brand new 3-minute episode, right, or 6-minute episode with some of the leading players in Hollywood, right? It's what's ultimately going to drive the interest in the audience.
The content first, right?
Right, and then you get to what's going to get you to try this. And this could be, oh, here's a free tier to go try the service. Here's 30 days off. Here's 90 days off. Here's a bundle that you can buy and you get this for free. And any number of permutations, combinations of marketing programs. And ultimately, then you get a user to kind of be in the service and subscribe for the longer term. And I think our role, Synacor's role in being an enabler is providing those features that are relevant for each stage of that journey, right? So the first could be um, just distribution partnerships. I kind of think about think about this as a video service is now part of a mall, right? And malls are being managed by players like Apple and Amazon and Roku and others, and you know, in also amongst the cable providers and other video operators, right? These are all the malls which are showcasing all of these various video services. And a platform that allows you easy integration into each of these partners to kind of allow you to get that at launch is going to be critical to drive awareness and showcase your content to deliver interest. A platform that recognizes all of these various very creative programs your marketing team might be coming up with, right? You've got access to the platform for 3 months. Oh, now you changed access and you have it free for 90 months, or 90 days. But after 90 days, you've got to start charging your credit card, but it's actually at a discounted rate, right? Or this category of content is free, but if you are viewing this category of content, your identity needs to recognize that you've paid for it. You can't get access to it for free. So there are all of these different personas, as you said, or different elements of authentication and authorization that we ensure is flexible enough in our platform out of the gate to enable them to focus on the consumer's journey rather than have the software and the technology be a constraint to this. And then finally, the problem that I think this is the good problem to have, right? This is what we all want, is you get to scale. So you get, you know, your business plan probably didn't suggest 50 million subscribers, right, in the first 6 months of the service, but there you are, and you need a platform that can scale up to that without having to re-architect everything, and that's another advantage we bring.
And can you? I mean, how quickly can you launch from the time that they, you know, sit down, starting to develop the sort of skeleton of the network? How quickly? How flexible? How flexible are you to be able to allow them to launch? I mean, how much time do you think that takes? Not including the licensing deals and all of the business meetings that have to take place to figure out all the marketing, but sort of the basic offering. How long do you think that takes in the back end for development to get it ready?
Depends on the specific use case, but we're proud of the fact that you can actually deploy our platform in hours and days. I mean, we're a cloud-based software company, so our premise is hardened APIs, developer tools, and access to them in a safe environment. And for some of these basic or early integrations, I mean, you could actually launch, connect them to your platform, and get going in a few days. Or maybe call it a few weeks if you want to, again, then do the load testing on the back end and make sure all of your various systems work. So make sure that our platform works in concert with all of the various systems that you have. So it might take a few weeks.
And so once you download software onto a set-top box or a connected TV or something like that, how can you scale to millions of units instantly?
We have, and so we've got partners that have achieved as many as, you know, anywhere between 15 to 20 million people watching a certain show. And our platform has scaled not only generally, but very specifically, because you see a surge in traffic. You see that kind of traffic coming in the minutes a program is supposed to start before airtime, for example. And you've got to get up to thousands of authentications a second without your platform crashing. So we've been doing that and doing that successfully for many of our partners, and have tons of.
You need to help. You need to help the web conferencing, you know, Zoom live streaming universe, because they need help scaling. Even though some of these services promise 100,000 people, I'm not sure they're able to deliver. So maybe you need to be involved in that community, help them. Okay. And what do you think that what do you think you need to launch in the next few months or the next year to keep pushing the platform forward? What are the important priorities for you?
So we continue to add features that make it easier across all of these items we just described, right? Scale, distribution, device access, etc. We're also doing a lot of work to kind of go deeper into the identity stack to help our customers better manage identity, but better manage this data in relationship with other systems they have, like CRM systems and billing systems, et cetera, so they can be more intelligent about their own customers. And then we are talking about bringing identity as it relates to streaming services together with the identity that we see amongst our business customers, right? So this interplay between our Zimbra collaboration platform and our identity platform, and what kind of benefit that can provide. And then the last thing I'd say, Tracy, is we have announced a potential merger with Kumu, and the whole premise of that merger is to actually use our tools and Kumu's tools to improve the efficacy of communications behind services like Zoom and kind of do more efficient video streaming in the enterprise.
It sounds like an interesting merger. When will that be finalized, do you think?
Things have been delayed because of COVID, as you would imagine, but there's a process where the companies are working together to file a preliminary S4, and then post that, there's an SEC process and a shareholder vote. So depending on how long that takes, next few months.
It's interesting, though, that you are talking about enhancing your identity technology, because that's definitely something that is not visible very much in the connected TV or the OTT marketplace at all. And I'm curious how that will, if operators will take advantage of that, as in other words, you're like priming the platform, but if they'll use that to create new forms of content, new ways to communicate with other people, or maybe it's just being used to track and to recommend content. Is this all integrated with a recommendations platform of your own, or some kind of personalization and AI layer, or do you integrate with other third-party services for that?
We don't have a recommendations engine that we sell as part of this platform, but the platform is configurable and can be connected to any recommendations engines that our customers might be using. And again, to your point, we are very comfortable. I'm very comfortable to be behind the scenes. The only question here is, we'd rather not be underappreciated. Like, we don't want anybody to underestimate how hard it is to do some of these things in the back end. And we believe we can do them effectively and efficiently. And quite frankly, let them and us stay behind the glare of the lights and let that focus on what makes the OTT service what it is for their consumers.
All right, well, that's a great final statement from CEO Himesh Bhise. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you for having me, and stay healthy, stay safe.
We're working very hard to not have to go out to do anything, believe me. Okay, I went out for the first time yesterday with my family, not having been out of here since early March.
All right.
So, but we're fortunate to order in until we make all our own fun. All right, too much about me. Thank you so much, Himesh. I really appreciate it. Hopefully see you soon. Good luck in keeping behind the scenes. We're putting a little spotlight on you today, but and I really appreciate you spending some time with me. All right. Oh, wait. Thanks so much. This is Tracy Swedlow. This is Televisionation. Please contact me, and we'll be making some announcements very soon. And stay tuned for more. Thanks.